Good morning. This is a virtual PBX-admin training. I am a couple minutes early here, so I'm going to hold off before jumping in. And I'll take this time to make sure my audio is working properly. Oops. So the training lasts about an hour and a half, give or take. Usually the load times are the variable that I have to worry about, but I'll try to aim for below that as much as possible. You can always view these trainings. We record them. They're here on our YouTube channel, as well as some other videos that you can take a look at. And there's a few that pertain towards training features, so I'll make sure to point them out as we get closer to those features. And basically every one of these features I'm going to be covering today, we have a full support guide available on our support pages. So if you go to virtualpbx.com, you'll see a blue bar towards the top of the page. There's a support link there, as well as the login link that shows you this page here. And then on the support pages, there'll be individual guides for the various features. Some of the guides are quite long because the features themselves are fairly in-depth. We do include screenshots so you know what to look for. And in some cases, we have short videos with those features. All right, it is 10 o'clock Pacific time, so let's go ahead and get started. Here we have our dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. As I mentioned, you can get here also from the virtualpbx.com site. Now to log in, we need your email address, your password, which should have been emailed to you, and then your account name, which is your company name. Now, for some reason, you don't have your password, for instance, right here above the sign-in bar towards the bottom right, if I forgot your info link, you can click on that. We still need your email address, right? That's unique for each user. And then we need either the account name or an account phone number, right? So one of your customer-facing phone numbers. You click on Reset Password. You'll get an email with a link. The link will let you log in and change your password. It logs you back out, and then you come back here, you enter in that password, and then you have a chance to click on Remember Me, and then you click on Sign In. Just so you know, we do recommend making use of Chrome or Firefox and the latest version of Edge, since it's based on the Chrome engine. Those tend to work best with accessing Dash. Other browsers can sometimes have issues. All right, here I get taken to our dashboard page because I've logged into this account several times. It's a test account that we use for training, among other things. For you, the first time you log into a new account, or you were just added to an account, the system will take you to your personal account page. Now you can always get there by clicking on your name towards the top right corner. This is where you would change your own password, for instance, to log into Dash. Now, as an admin, you also have the account level settings, right? So you can change like the time zone, so it's more accurate to your system, as well as the display language. Now, because this is a test account, I don't have everything here that you would on your accounts. For your system admins, on the left-hand side, underneath where it says user, you'll have a billing section, right? This is where you update your credit card information. You can see your plan. You can see who your billing contact is, right? The person who gets the invoices and actually who has the ultimate control of the account. And you can edit that information, as well as your previous invoices. Now, when you're done here, just click on Close. You'll be back here on the main dashboard page. At the top, again, you always have your name. You can click on that to get back to those user pages we were just looking at. For most of you, to the right of your name, you'll have a D&D toggle, right? D&D for Do Not Disturb. You click on it, it turns it on. You click on it again, it'll turn it off, right? Basically, if it's white, if it's mostly white, it's on. And that just means you're not going to be offered calls, or calls that go to you will go to voicemail. Then we got the little help icon, right? Question mark. Chat with us opens up a chat window, typically to the bottom right of your browser, so you can chat with a support agent. Learn more will open up a new tab and take you directly to the support pages, so you can look at guides. The online store also opens a new tab. It takes you to store.virtualpbx.com. This is where you would order a VoIP phone, a router, etc. This blank spot can also be filled with the web phone link. Web phone is a device, so you'd have to add it first as a device to your user, but then once you do, on here, you would click it, it'd open a new tab to take you to webphone.virtualpbx.net, where you could log in using Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls directly from the browser on a computer. Right, 3 horizontal line icon, the menu icon, hamburger icon. This takes you to other features of Dash. We will primarily be in the dashboard for the vast majority of this training, but we will be getting to most of these others. And then we have the logout icon. Right here in the center, we have total users. I have 17 people on my account. That means these are people who make and receive calls on my account. Most of our plans are based on a per user basis, so I'm paying for each of these 17 people. Right, so if I wanted to save money, I could remove people if they're no longer working with me. Now, next up, I got total devices. I have 38, and then a breakdown of these devices. Now, Dash was designed with VoIP phones in mind, right? So in case you don't know, VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. Right? It just means using your internet connection to make and receive calls. So first up, we have soft phone. Shorthand for software application that acts like a phone, right? Soft phone. Now, this can include the VirtualPBX soft phone app. This can include an app from another company. It could also include you're using the soft phone credentials to program a physical VoIP phone, right? And it looks like I have 15 of those. Then I have cell phones, right? We're pretty familiar with those. Next up, I have the web phone, right? The Chrome or Firefox. I have 12 of those, or sorry, 10 of those. And then SIP phone. This is a physical VoIP device, right? Sits on a desk. Polycom phone, Cisco phone, and I have 2 on this account. Down here, I have unregistered devices. That's 2. That means my SIP phones are currently unregistered. And that just means we can't send calls to those devices. That could just be because they're not plugged in right now. Right? Or that someone turned off their router or unplugged their router, right? It could be they're having router setting problems. They could have an internet outage. We don't know. But basically, that means we can't send calls to those devices. Next up, I have total numbers. These are phone numbers, right? I have 33. Most of our plans include anywhere from 2 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. So I am paying an overage. That's based on per number, right? So for each number I'm over, I'm paying a set fee. To find out specifics of that for your plan, you'd want to talk to our account services team in terms of how many numbers are included on your plan and what the overages for extra numbers is. Then I have a breakdown here of assigned numbers and spare numbers, right? Assigned number means I'm using it. It's one of my main numbers. It's a number that goes to my salespeople, right? Or my individual sales, my individual salespeople can have their own phone numbers, for example. A fax box number, conference number, etc. Spare number, right? It's on my account, so it counts towards my allotment. I'm just not using it right now. So I had a promotion that just ended, right? Or, I got a block of numbers in sequence. I just haven't gotten to those last numbers yet. This other breakdown here is USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888 all the way down to 833 currently. And USDID just means a US local number, right? So if I want a number in Raleigh, North Carolina, or a number in Chicago, Illinois, they would just both fall under USDID. You can have an international number on your account if you wish. If you want to acquire one, you need to email our porting team. That's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. If there are additional requirements, they will let you know what those are. Right? Those requirements come from the country typically, right? Their telecom regulatory service. And then once we get that documentation, we submit it, and then we add the number to your account. Conference bridges, I have 2. This just means I've enabled conferencing or the ability to host or moderate a conference on 2 of my users. Over here to the top right, we have my main numbers, right? So these 4 phone numbers, they all act in the same way. They all go to the same location. They all have the same main greeting. All right, then we have my conference numbers. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you wish. All right, but these are the phone numbers your staff or your vendors or your clients call to get to the conference rooms. Fax box number, this is your main fax box or main fax number, right? You can have the 1. This is the number people use to fax to you. All right, so then we've got the company directory. This downloads a CSV file. Right, it has your staff members' names, their extension numbers, and their primary devices. The soft phone directory, this downloads also a CSV file that you would then upload to the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. This will then upload all your staff members, right, information to your soft phone. This lets you know their status in relation to the soft phone, right? So I could see, oh, my coworker Mike is using his soft phone on a call right now, so there's no point in me calling him. But it only pertains to the VirtualPBX soft phones, right? So if, say, my coworker Mike has a Yealink phone that he happens to be on a call on, I won't see that on my soft phone. All right, store discount code. Just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use in our online store, store.virtualpbx.com. And then we have the account realm. The account realm used in a couple things. Right. 1, it's used as one of the 3 pieces of information you need to program a third-party soft phone. Right. So you're using Xlite from Counterpath. Right. You would need that, your realm, along with a couple other pieces of information to make that software work with us. The other thing it's used for is to send a fax out. So for faxing out on Dash, it's email to fax. So you create an email like you normally do. In the to field of the email, the plus sign, the number 1, area code and phone number you're faxing to, the little @ symbol, and then your account realm. All right, then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file and click send. Right, the system will not look or read the subject line or the body of the email. Right, that information is not transmitted. It looks at the to field, it looks at the from field, it looks at the attachment, and you can only send the 1 attachment per email. Right, up here we have the caller ID. This is your company caller ID or your default caller ID for your VoIP phones. I would click on the pull downs, but most of them don't work on the streaming software. But you can select any of your main company numbers here. Then you've got the company caller ID name, referred to as CNAME. All right, this allows you to input up to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters that we transmit as part of your caller ID. And then you have the company emergency information, right? E911. This needs a North American address. And then you would click on Save Changes. Now, once you click on Save Changes, right, the company call ID name information is transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. It takes them about 3 business days to update their databases, give or take. So then when you make an outbound call from your VoIP devices, right, we send this phone number and this name as part of your caller ID. Now, when you make an outbound call, your call goes through many carriers. Not every carrier supports CNAME. We can't make them. Usually it's a small or very, like a regional carrier that doesn't support CNAME. So if they, if your call happens to route through one of those, the CNAME information does not get to your destination. When calling cell phones, your CNAME information may not be displayed. Right? The cell phone carriers control the information that gets displayed on the cell phones on their network. So they choose to allow the CNAME information to go through or not. In some cases, the cell phone providers want their subscribers to pay an additional fee to have CNAME show up on every call. Right? Like I know at least a few years ago, AT&T wanted me to pay $10 a month for that. I wasn't willing to do that, so I don't get CNAME information on all my calls. Hold music on Dash is defined as once a call has reached a user and then that user has pressed hold on their VoIP phone, that's when the hold music file will play. You can upload your own file. You can upload .wav, right, .wav, .mp3, or .ogg files. You want to make sure that they're recorded in mono, not in stereo, and that they're under 1 megabyte in file size. You would find the file on your computer, click the up arrow icon. Once it finishes uploading, then you would click on Save Changes. And this will become the default hold music for all of your staff. Right now, ours actually goes under main number, so we'll go right to main numbers and let that load. All right, up the top, main company numbers, right? These are the 4 phone numbers that people dial to access my system. If I don't want to use a number as a main number, I can click on assign next to it. And now it's not a main number. It's still on my account, right? I just moved it to be a spare number. Now, any place you can add a number, you usually have these 2 choices, right? Add from spare numbers, right? So numbers you already have on your account, right? So you're already paying for them. We just click on the checkbox and click on add selected number. And just click cancel. Or you can click buy, right? Buy numbers, local or toll-free. Toll-free, you just choose the prefix you want to work with. Click on search. The system will display available numbers. Now, the numbers that displays, this is a dynamic list. So it can, you're basically competing with people in real time. So you don't want to sit here for, add a number, walk away to your lunch, come back, and then click buy numbers, because that number may not actually be available to you any longer, right? So once you decide to buy a number, you want to complete the process. You can add multiple numbers at the same time if you are so inclined. And in this case, when I buy them, they would go right here under my main numbers. For local numbers, you need to know the area code, right? So if you do a search for 310, that's in Los Angeles, you'll see that there's none available. This will happen in your major metropolitan areas where some of the area codes are simply exhausted. If you have to have a phone number in a particular area code, you can email our porting team and ask them to do a back order. If you do, you need to know that there's no guarantee we can get a number, and there's no way for us to give you an ETA on when one will become available. Excuse me. Right? Because basically what we're doing is we're waiting for someone to give up, in this case, a 310 phone number, and then we try to acquire it. Right? So we can't predict when someone's going to give up a phone number. So in that situation, you would go up here, go back to search, and you would look for either a nearby area code or an overlay. Right, 424 is a nearby area code to 310. And then I can just add a number, click buy. Right, now it's verifying the number is still there, right? Someone else didn't grab it while I was talking. And then it adds it to my account. And in this case, it's adding it directly to where I wanted to use it. There's a little gear icon here next to the numbers, and you notice these little icons up here. You can set the caller ID for each number, including the CNAME, as well as turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAME information. Right, E911, each phone number can have its own E911 address, which means and the reason this is done is that way for your VoIP phones, you can associate the E911 to a specific phone number on your account. Right? So that way you have the right address for where your staff is located at. And then Ppand is the other big feature. This is for your VoIP phone users where you can put text, right? That will show up on the VoIP phone's caller ID. So when anyone calls this 42 phone number, right, and it gets to my users on their VoIP phones, they'll see the word Los Angeles, or the words Los Angeles, and then the caller ID of the phone number of the person who's calling in, right? So that lets my staff members know, oh, it's about our, that we just expanded to Los Angeles. It's about our new location. Okay, once you've added main numbers, then you can look at your office hours strategy. You have two options, right? 24-hour open office or custom office hours. You do custom office hours for each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of that day. And in the boxes to the right, you select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option down here at the very bottom to say you're closed for lunch. And if you put a check mark there, you just put your lunch hours in, again, that 24-hour or military time. And then you would click on Save Changes. All right, office holidays. First up, you need to decide if you're closed for holidays. And then if you are, then over here to the right, you have Add Holidays. You have the option for single day, date range, and advanced. Pretty self-explanatory for the most part, right? Single day, you just give it a name. You choose the month and the date. Right, then click on Save Changes. Right, date range, go down here to Xmas Rake. Right, start date, end date. Save changes. Notice there's no year indicator. So part of the reason why I have New Year's Eve and New Year's Day is I want to avoid a potential system issue that could happen. It hasn't happened in a while, but you want to avoid having those as part of a date range. Now, the advanced is like we have here for Thanksgiving, where you give it a name, and you choose the month, and then 1st through 5th, and then last in this middle drop down, and then the day of the week, right? So 3rd Thursday, November, Thanksgiving. And then you would click on Save Changes. All right, now we have incoming call handling. So this is in relation to our main numbers. All right, so these 4 phone numbers I have up here, I have an open hours tab, I have an after hours tab, I have a holidays tab. If I had chosen to be closed for lunch, I would also have a lunch tab. All right, so now what I'm saying for my main phone numbers, during my open hours, this option here, calls come in, they go to the virtual receptionist, right, or auto attendant. I can click on virtual receptionist, and here I have my main menu, right? This is what people press to navigate through the phone system. The greetings, this is where I say thank you for calling and give them directions, right? Tell them what the options are. And then we have settings. So the main menu, you would click here where it says add route. This creates a new menu option. You have the default action, 0 through 9, and then the star key in this first pull down. The second pull down, this goes to wherever you determine. So we'll go up here, right? Smart PBX directory. This is the dial by name directory or user directory, right? Users, I can send it to a specific person, right? Call queues. If I'm making use of ACD queues, I can make a menu option, go to a queue. I can send calls to a specific device, right? A specific phone. Now, this isn't always recommended unless that phone has its own built-in voicemail, right? Otherwise, the phone will keep ringing until the person decides to hang up. Media file, this just plays a media file, right? So like a greeting. Usually this would be used for something like hours of operation or directions. Once that media file ends, the call ends. Groups, these are departments, right? They're similar to queues. So like, I think by default, this is going to the front desk, right? So like my front desk group. Advanced call flows, this is if your account has multiple auto attendants and you want to make use of submenuing. And then lastly, you have an option to go send callers to a voicemail box. So here we can do something like that. All right, greetings, text-to-speech, right? This is you type in a greeting and the system reads it off, right? It's a computerized robotic voice. You can have up to 250 characters as your text-to-speech greeting. Characters, not words. Then once you click update, save, and save changes, the system will name this file, in this case, main open hours menu, TTS, right? Because I'm on my open hours up here at the top. If I come back here and change it again, it still uses that same file name, and I'll have two instances of it, say main open hours menu TTS, and I don't have an easy way to determine which one is which. So my recommendation, when you use text-to-speech greeting, after you click Update, Save Changes, over here on the left, click on Greetings, find that file and rename it to something, right? Something that you can identify it, right? Like main greeting 1, right? That way, this is the first one I created, right? And then you can say, oh, that didn't work, make an edit, save changes, go back, change the new one to main greeting 2. That way you can compare the two and flip back between them if you need to. Upload your own file, .wave, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Just click on choose a file here and find the file on your system. Click open, then click update, save changes. Choose from an existing recording, this pull down menu. You can see here I have a main open hours menu TTS already selected. Unfortunately, this pull down, it doesn't work properly, but I would have several of those. You can record it over the phone. Now, by default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone on the account. Right? That's a security feature. If you don't want to do that, right, you want to just use your cell phone, right? Or you have a buddy who's got that great radio voice, and you want them to call, then what you would want to do is under Settings, right here where it says Allow Outside Recording, you want to turn this on, right? Save changes. So now you can call in from a cell phone or a landline to your main number here, and then enter in the PIN number, and then the system will walk you through recording a new main greeting. Now, when you just first signed up, when you call your main number by default, you're going to hear a message saying, a greeting for this menu has not been recorded, and it will then prompt you for the PIN number. Right? Pretty easy for that first setup. If you've already have a greeting file in place, right? Let's say you've been using us for a couple months, but now you want to come in and change it. The PIN number will still work, right? You call your main number, you'll hear greeting A play. You enter in the PIN number. The system will recognize it and then walk you through recording your new greeting over the phone. You record it, you click save, and your new greeting will then be playing. It's still going to have the greeting file name of greeting A, right? Greeting A, the file name stay there. You just overwrote the content. That can sometimes be problematic around holidays where you want to change a greeting to be specific for that holiday. If you do that, you lose your main greeting that you've been using for previous month or however long. So it's something to be aware of. Professional recording services, when you click order, this will open a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings, where you can order a greeting from them. They have 100 actors and actresses to choose from, various versions of English, Spanish, and French. They handle their own billing. They deliver to you via email. So then you would just come here and upload your own file. All right, settings. See, these first two are related, or somewhat related. Number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. Right? The dialing timeout is how much time the system listens for that second button press. Right? So, call comes in. Right? They hear the main greeting. So then they press 5. Right? Not a valid option. The system counts to 5. Says, oh, you mean just 5, not like 5-1 or 5-1-1. Right? So then it says, okay, it double checks. Nothing in the main menu. There's no extension 5. So it says that's not a valid entry. It replays the main greeting, right? Because this person, the inbound caller, gets 1 retry. So now they're on the retry. Main greeting plays. Inbound caller presses 7. The system waits for 5 to see if there's additional digits being pressed. If nothing else is pressed, the system says, okay, that's not a valid option, and you don't get any more retries. So then it says, it does tell the caller, we did not recognize your entry, and ends the call. All right. So again, you can edit this to 3, 5, 10, how many retries you want to give the caller. That's up to you. Dialing timeout, I usually say anywhere between 2 to 5 is typically enough. The default is 10, which I think is too long. All right, we already covered allow outside recording. I do recommend turning that back off once you're done recording your greeting over the phone. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on. Right? This means that if the inbound caller knows the extension number, the system will recognize it and then transfer the call. All right? If I turn this off, then the inbound caller can only press these menu options. Right? The system will treat an extension number as an invalid entry. And then here's suppress the playing of the invalid entry. If you don't want that invalid entry message to play, right? We did not recognize your entry. Thank you, goodbye. Then you can turn this on. Now, in my samples, if I had a default action, right, after that count of 5 and on that second attempt, it would send them to the Smart PBX directory because that's my default action. Right, but because I didn't have one, that's why the call would end. Any changes you make to the main menu, the greetings, or the settings, you need to click Save here. And then when you're back on the incoming call handling, you need to click Save Changes here. Right? You're clicking Save twice. Now, for after hours, I could say that we have the second option here. This is a live operator answer option. Right? You're giving a staff member, in this case Aaron, a chance to answer the call first. If he doesn't pick up, it goes to the virtual receptionist. This is a pull down, right? I can select any user. I can go to a call queue. I can send calls to a specific device, right? A specific phone. I can send calls to a media file. I don't recommend this just because that means your inbound caller is going to hear 2 greetings back to back, and that can throw people off. You can send it to a ring group or one of your advanced call flows, one of your secondary attendants. Now, this virtual receptionist is different, right? Because now we're under after hours. So I could have a different menu options. I could have a different greeting play. I could have different settings. Now, if I go to open hours, I can still choose this option if I want. And then the virtual receptionist was the one we were just looking at previously, right, under the virtual receptionist option. Right, so this option here is you're offering a call to somebody, right, a group or whatever, and then it goes to voicemail. Right, you can offer to any user, any of your queues, any of your devices, any of your groups, any of your media files. You can send it to one of your other attendants. You also have the option here to skip to voicemail, right? Just send calls straight to a particular voicemail box. And that's what these pull downs is, only voicemail boxes. This last option here is to send calls to a secondary attendant. This only shows up because I have multiple auto attendants available. Right? If I did not have multiple auto attendants, either because I didn't have it as a plan option or I just haven't created any, this box wouldn't even be here. Main conference numbers, you can have multiple conference numbers here. Right? You can add from spare, so I can continue to add more conference numbers if I want to. I could buy new numbers and add them directly here. I have the option here for custom text-to-speech greeting. I just type in what I want the system to say and then click on save. You don't have to have a custom greeting here. If I turn this off, it would just, the system, when you call the conference number, it says welcome to the conference, and then prompts the inbound caller to enter in the conference room number and then the PIN number. Main fax box, you can only have the one main fax box number. So if this wasn't here, I'd have the option to add from spare or buy new. I click on edit fax box. This opens up a new box. First up, we have inbound notification. Right? This is the email address that will get an email every time a fax comes through. Right? That email will include a PDF attachment, so they can click on it to view the incoming fax. If someone dials your fax box number, right? So they dial this 775 number I have there, they hear the fax tones and they hang up, then this Giovanni email address here, he's going to get an email saying that there was a failed inbound fax attempt. So something to be aware of. The email permissions, this is for sending out a fax, right? So who has permission to send an outbound fax? This is designed to put in your company email domain, right? So everyone here at VirtualPBX, they can send a fax out off of this account, even if they're not a user on this particular Dash account. Now you can put an email address here, and then that only that specific email address can then send a fax out. And then you would click on Save Changes. Okay, next up we have auto attendance. Auto attendance is a plan-specific feature, right? So it's available on some plans and not on others. This has a couple of use cases. So first, it's for sub-menuing, right? You want one for English, two for Spanish, right? Those will be menu options off of your virtual receptionist. Then you would have under the auto attendance here, an English auto attendant and a Spanish auto attendant. This would then allow you to create an English greeting and then a Spanish greeting, right? And those menu options would go to the English-speaking staff members and your Spanish-speaking staff members, respectively. The other reason, or the other use case that we have come across is for someone who owns multiple small businesses, right? So each business has its own phone number and its own main greeting, but they have the same staff people answering calls for these various businesses. So up here at the top, you would click Add a New Attendant. We need a name and an extension number. The extension number is something only your staff would ever really use. It's not expected that your customers would know. And then you click on Create Attendant. Once you've created an attendant, you can click here on the name box, and then you have the option here. Is it unavailable in the main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, like a separate business, or it's available in main menu? This means it's a sub-menu option, right? So it shows up under the virtual receptionist menu options, among other places, right? And then you would click on Save Changes. Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers, right? That's part of the purpose of them. You can either add from spare or buy new numbers. They have their extension numbers. And then you have the little wrench icon here under Settings. Notice here I have open hours, after hours, and holidays. This information matches everything we set up under main number, right? So if you have multiple businesses, they would need to have the same hours of operation, right? Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or 24/7, or what have you, as well as have the same holidays. But beyond that, they only have the option for the virtual receptionist. So you would set up menu options here, as well as a greeting, and then set up the settings, and then save and save changes. Devices shows your devices that are in use or that you have on your account. A green device means we can send calls to it, right? Means it's online, right? Red means it's unregistered, like someone hasn't logged into their soft phone yet. And then black means they've turned it off, right? Or you have turned it off, which you can turn it back on. In that case, it goes back to red, etc. Now up here at the top, you can add new devices. First option here is the SIP phone, right? This is that physical device that sits on someone's desk. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some, like Yealink, have a lot of models. Others, like A-Check, not that many. But for any phone that you're working with, you want to find the make and the model. Then you need to give it a name, right? I usually use the person's name and then the word phone, right? So Adam's phone, right? Then you need the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each phone, often a sticker on the back of the phone or on the bottom of the phone. If the phone's plugged in, usually under its basic settings or its status section, it will have a label for MAC, M-A-C. You just enter that information in here. Then you click on Create Device. And then you would just need to go to Users and assign it to a user. Now, as far as our dashboard is concerned, that's all that's needed. But in order to actually set up the phone, you actually need to log into the phone's web user interface, right? The web UI. And that's basically getting the IP address of the phone, entering that IP address into a computer's browser that's on the same network as the phone. And then you need to log in and enter in a URL. Basically, you're telling the phone, hey, go here to get your config file. It will do so. It will reboot a couple times and then show up as a green device on your dashboard here. For the specifics of that, you need to go to our support pages and you're looking for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones. It will have screenshots for the various manufacturers, as well as the proper syntax for the URL and where to put it. And in most cases, some settings to double check. Right, so you follow that guide for the phone's web user interface, and then it should, again, reboot a couple times and then show up as a green device. Cell phone and landline, basically the same, right? You give it a name, right? Angela's phone. And then under number here, you put the plus sign, the number 1, area code and phone number, click on create device. So we'll go down here. Right, so this is a phone that's already been added, right? Had the +1 and everything. If I click advanced and select options, this is the default settings for a cell phone or landline. So when we send a call to a cell phone or landline, right, that phone will ring, right? When you pick up, you're going to hear, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you are there. Yes, you want to take this call, right? You press 1, we connect the call to you. You can talk to the customer. Now, if, for instance, you use adding a cell phone, you put in a phone number, and that's going to an automated after-hours answering service that you're going to use. Well, that automated answering service doesn't know when to press 1, right? Because it's just a computer. So in that instance, where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, you want to put a check mark here. So now when we send a call to this phone number, when we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call, right? We're not waiting for an additional tone to come through. So then your automated answering service can handle the call. Everyone's happy. If this is your actual cell phone number and you have this first option checked, then if your cell phone voicemail happens to pick up, we treat that like a connected call. So the inbound caller ends up on your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that. Some people definitely don't. That's a personal preference. Now here, keep a regional caller ID. So call comes into the system, right? Say customer Mary calls, reaches out to your cell phone. On your cell phone's display, you're going to see customer Mary's phone number by default. You don't recognize it, and you've had several calls about extending your auto warranty. You're like, let it go to voicemail. Say you're not able to get to voicemail for a while, and by the time you call customer Mary back, she's gone on to one of your competitors. So a way to know that that inbound call was a business call would be to uncheck keep a regional caller ID. So now customer Mary calls, instead of seeing Mary's phone number, go back to your dashboard here, right? This phone number, right? This 323 phone number would show up on your cell phone's display. Hopefully you would recognize your main company number and you would then answer the call, assuming you're in a safe position to do so, i.e. not driving. All right, soft phone. First, whenever adding a soft phone or the web phone, you want to read this warning message at least once. When you add a soft phone on the devices page, you're adding a third-party device only, right? So you're not adding a VirtualPBX soft phone. You're adding a third-party soft phone here. So you give it a name, right? So Barbara's phone. And then because you're using a third-party application, you want to copy and paste a SIP username, right? Click on the SIP password box to see the SIP password. You want to copy and paste this. You do not want to edit this, right? And then you have the realm, right? You want to copy and paste that. Those are the 3 pieces of information you would need to program that third-party application. Right? You would click on Create Device, you click, eventually add it to a user, and then program that application. We'll get to the web phone and the VirtualPBX soft phone when we get down to users. Oh, you have a little wrench icon next to your devices. Right, so you can view them. Audio, you can double check the codecs. You want to see G711A and G711U typically. Opus is also what we use for the VirtualPBX soft phone. This is where you can change the external caller ID, right? So you can have a device have a specific outbound caller ID, as well as the emergency information, right? You just select the phone number. The Greetings tab, this shows all the greeting or media files on your account. Right, you have the file name, the source, right? Upload means you uploaded. TTS is text to speech. And then down here, recording means you recorded it over the phone. You can download any of these files. That way you can listen to them. And if you click on the little wrench icon, you can change the name as well as get rid of a greeting. Up here at the top, you can upload new greetings, right? You just give it a name, find the file, right? .ogg, .mp3, .wave, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Then click on Create Greeting. And then these are all available wherever you can upload or add a greeting. Right. Groups, this is short for ring groups or hunt groups. Departments. Up here at the top, you click Add Group. You give it a name and an extension number. If you click on Find One, it'll show you the list of used extensions, and you can type it in to see if it's already in use or not. Excuse me, had to coughing fit there. So after you've given it a name and an extension number, you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group, and then click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on its name. Right, you can always change the name, and then you also have group call attempts. Right here, there's little arrows here to the right where you can increase or decrease it. This is how many times the system will offer the calls to the staff members in the group. So right now, I'm only offering it to my staff members once. Right? If I change it again, now I'm offering it to them twice. That assumes no one picks up the first time, right? Now, under the members box, I have 5. Now, this is my ring order, right? So it's David, then Michael first, then Jan here comes in third, then Peter, and then Aaron is at the very end. And there's some overlap, right? I have between my staff members. Now, over here, these are timestamps. And this last one you can edit, right? The default is 120. You can change it as you see fit. Oops. Now, I can click Distribute. This will equalize the ring time between my staff members, and it rings in order. All right, now, these are sliders, so I can adjust the ring time. And I can do a ring all setup or blast ringing. Oops. Just like so. So now when calls comes in, it rings everyone at the same time until someone picks up. Now, for groups, your staff members can answer calls with a cell phone, a landline, or a VoIP phone. That's one of the differences between a group and a queue. On the ACD queues, you can only answer calls with a VoIP phone, right? No cell phone, no landline. Also, for calls that come to a group, if your user has multiple devices, so let's say David here has 3 phones on his user, all 3 of them will ring when a call comes into the group. Now, there's a user feature called Follow Me. Right? Calls from a group will ignore the Follow Me user setting, right? Whereas calls So let's say David has those 3 devices. Under his users, follow me settings, they ring in order, right? His soft phone, his web phone, and say his cell phone number, right? Rings in that order. But when a group call comes in, all 3 of them ring at the same time. So that's one way for him to know, oh, it's a group call versus calling his extension number. Also, for your staff members, when they pick up a call, if they have call waiting enabled on their device, then and a second call comes into the group, right? They're going to hear a call waiting beep. So, like in this scenario, your staff members might want to go into their devices and turn off call waiting, so that way when they're on a call with a customer, they're not getting call waiting beep every minute when calls come in. Now, under distribute, right, I'm ringing in this order. I can change the order by clicking and dragging, and then click distribute again. And now the order is going Michael first and David's at the end. And then any changes, you click on Save Changes. Right, groups can have their own extension number. If you want to change extensions, I usually recommend adding the new extension number first, and then Save Changes, and then click on the extension box again, and then unassign the original extension number. Groups can also have their own phone number. Just another difference between groups and queues. Queues can only have either an extension number or a phone number, right? Groups can have both. One thing to keep in mind about these phone numbers, since they're not a main number or an auto attendant number, they don't have hours of operation, right? These numbers are available 24/7. But beyond that, same process, right? You can either add from spare, buy new numbers, and then you would save changes. There's groups features. First is ringback. So when we send a call to your staff members, right, the staff member phones ring, we hear that ring sound, right? We pipe it back to your inbound caller. That's the default setting. If you want to replace that ringing sound coming back to your inbound caller, then you would enable ringback and upload a media file, right? .mp3, .ogg, .wav, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Now, if for some reason we don't get that ringing sound coming back from your staff members' phones, the ringback file won't play because it has nothing to replace, right? So we need that ringing sound to come back from your staff members in order for ringback to work. Next action, if you click enabled, if no one answers the call, what do you want to do with it? This is a pull down. You can send it back to your main menu. You can send it to one of your secondary attendants. You can send it to a call queue, devices. You can send it to users and a voicemail box. Allow call forwarding. If you enable this, that means your users can make use of call forwarding, i.e. they're not going to be at their normal phone. Caller ID Ppand, this is for your VoIP phone users. If you click enable, you can add either additional name, right, text, or numbers in front of the caller ID, right? So this is a way to give your staff member a heads up about the kind of call they're about to answer. All right, numbers. This starts you off with numbers in use. So, where your numbers are going, right? Who they're ringing to. You have the little gear icon here next to each number, so you can update the caller ID, E911, Ppand, etc. You can't do anything about unassigning the numbers here. Right? This just lets you know where to go. Right? So office number, that's either a main number or auto attendant number. Right? The person's name, that's usually user. Call flows, this is typically for a Faxbox number or you had some sort of custom work done. Right, we have a main conference number down here. And we should have some group numbers. Interesting, they must be further down. All right, oops. Spare numbers shows the numbers you're not in use. So if I wanted to save some money on my bill, then notice up here it says buy, port, or sync. once I click on the little box in front of a number, now I have the option to delete. All right, so I can say, select those two. It says, are you sure? I click yeah. And now they're removed from my account. So I saved a little money on my phone bill. Right, by numbers, right? Local toll free, just like we've seen earlier. But this just adds them as a spare number, right? So then you would add from use the add from spare number list to add numbers to where you want them to go. Right, port, this starts the port process. Helps if I click on it. New request, you give it a name. All right, you say local toll free, you click next. Now it wants you to upload a copy of your bill and then put a check mark here saying that it's less than 30 days old. We'll ask you for the billing address that's associated with the number. We'll ask you what numbers you want to port. It will let you download a blank LOA, letter of agency, that you will need to fill out and sign. Then you can upload the completed and signed LOA. There's 4 checkboxes, and then you would click submit. Once you successfully submit, you'll get an automated email saying that you submitted the porting documents. By the next business day, you should get a second email from our porting team letting you know that yes, they did see the documents and yes, they've actually submitted the port request. On the LOA, it asks for company information, right? Like the name and the address. That should match what your current carrier has on file, right? So let's say you're porting from AT&T to VirtualPBX. Whatever AT&T has on file, that's what would go on your letter of agency, right? In terms of the company name, the address, right? The LOA does ask for a signature, right? A digital signature is fine, right? But simply typing your name twice will cause a rejection and delay the port. Generally speaking, local numbers to average about 2 to 3 weeks to port. Toll-free numbers about 3 to 5 business days, assuming everything is correct. If we get a rejection, it's not always very specific, right? So we will get things like address mismatch. They won't tell us necessarily that the street number was wrong or that the zip code was wrong, right? They'll just say the address was wrong. So then we have to come back to you saying, hey, we got this error. You know, we normally double check to make sure there was no typos on our part. You know, especially if someone's handwriting is messy and maybe we, you know, thought a 7 was a 9, right? We could try to flip that to put it through. But assuming that there wasn't a typo, then we'll let you know. And you either, at that point, you would need to confirm with the carrier what they're expecting to see on the port out. Excuse me. All right, users shows all your users on the account. The gray person icon, standard user. They can't do any of the things that we've been talking about so far today. Person with the blue suit, they are system admin, meaning everything we've gone through today, they can do. Up here at the top is where you would add a user, right? First and last name, hopefully you know the first and last name of the user. The email address used for login needs to be unique for each user, right? So you can't reuse an email address. Then you create a password for them, and then you enter in the extension number for them, right? This system started off with extension 1000, so it's saying the next available is 1015. But again, you can change this to whatever you want. We do typically recommend 4-digit extensions as that gives you a lot of versatility and room for growth. Now, by default, the system will create a voicemail box for the user. That voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user, meaning like if I finish creating this user and then I added a VoIP phone to them right away, they can then pick up that VoIP phone, hit *98 on the VoIP phone. It's a feature code to get to their voicemail box. That first time they do that, the system will walk them through creating a PIN number for their voicemail box, and then walk them through setting up their voicemail box greeting. Here's your option to include in the user directory. You can change your mind on this later. You also have the option to send to an alternate address. So by default, right? We have an email address used for login. That's the email address we use to send notifications to the user, right? So like they get a voicemail, the email address used for login, that's the address we send the voicemail notifications to. If you don't want to use that email address, that's when you would use send to an alternate address and then put in a different email address here. Right? Otherwise, there's no need to make use of that. And then lastly, send credentials to the user. I do recommend putting a check mark here because once you create user, that person then gets an email with their login information. Right? If you need to add multiple people, create user and add another. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. Actually, we'll click on Cody here. Right? So you can change their name. Up here is you can change their credentials, right? So their email address, their password. You also have the option here to resend the password reset email directly to the user. You can change the voicemail box PIN number, right? It's just a temporary PIN number, which is good for your cell phone users or landline users. Right, here's your option to send to an alternate address, and then you can enter in that other email. Here's the option to include in the user directory. This pull down, you can change a user to an admin or an admin down to a user. This is the time zone. Right? You can do a search here for the correct time zone for the user, so that way their voicemail timestamps are correct for their time zone. The little flag icon here is for the display language. English, French, German, or Russian, and this is how the Dash web pages will display to that user. Ringing timeout, the default is 20 seconds, which is plenty of time to a VoIP phone or a landline. If your users are primarily using a cell phone, you would want to increase this to 30 seconds or 45 seconds even. It simply takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than it does to a landline, right? So a call comes in, we're sending a call out to a user, right? When we send a call to a landline, we send it to the landline telecom. They say, oh yeah, it's right here. They send the call right through. We send the call out to cell phone provider. They say, hold on a second, we need to find them first, right? They ping cell phone towers, they find you, then they let the call go through. That delay, right, trying to find you, is why you would need a longer ring duration for cell phone users. Now, if you have the user feature follow me, then you don't need to adjust it here. You would have adjusted under the follow me features, which we'll be getting to shortly. Users can have extension numbers. They can have multiple if you want them to. Again, if you want to change extension numbers, I recommend adding the new one first, save changes, and then remove the old one. Users can have their own phone numbers, right? Add from spare, buy new, right? Same process that we've seen. They can have multiple phone numbers. Just like in groups, these are not main numbers or auto attendant numbers, so these don't have hours of operation, right? They're 24/7. Now, you can add devices to a user directly, right? SIP phone, cell phone, etc. Now, when you add a soft phone to a user here, you see now I have an extra option down here at the very bottom. It's grayed out. It says use third-party application. If I click on that, it now says use VirtualPBX application. So now I'm adding a VirtualPBX soft phone. So I would just need to give it a name. Helps to spell things properly. I click on create device, and then I click on save changes. So now Cody's going to get an email with his username and password for use with the VirtualPBX soft phone application. That email is also going to include a download link, right? At least for the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. So they can download the app, use his credentials to log in, and so now he can then use the app to make and receive calls. Likewise, I I find it easier to add the web phone directly to a user. You just need to give it a name and then click on Create Device and Save Changes. The web phone uses your dash login information, so it doesn't do any good until you have it on a user anyway, so you might as well just add it directly to the user you want it to. All right, users have features. Caller ID number, this only is available for users that have their own phone number. And what you're saying is when they make outbound calls, it's this phone number will show up as their outbound caller ID instead of the main company number. Call forwarding, this is a feature your users can enable themselves, right? They can do this via the user portal, and this just means, just straight up turning it on. They basically have the same form here, whereas they check self desktop or mobile, +1 area code and phone number, they click on Save Changes. Right, failover mode is something an admin has to set up, and this is saying when your VoIP phone goes offline, right, becomes unregistered, then and a call happens to come into your user at that time, automatically send a call to this phone number you specify. Hot desking is a VoIP feature. You give it a hot desk ID. So if you're using 4-digit extensions, right, that makes it easy, hot desk ID to use. You click on Save Changes. The use case for this, shared office environment or hybrid scheduling, right? Where your staff members maybe only come in twice a week, so you don't need a desk and a phone for all 30 of your staff members for every day. You only need maybe 15, right? Save on some infrastructure costs, maybe cut down on your rent. So say Aaron comes into the office on Tuesday, he sits out at the first available desk, sits at desk number 1, right near the window, picks up the VoIP phone. He hits *11, that turns on hot desking on that phone. The system will ask him for his hot desk ID. If you enable the PIN number, it'll then ask him for his PIN number. Then it will tell him calls will now be sent to this device. So now for the rest of Aaron's day, calls will be coming to desk phone number 1 that he's sitting at. End of his day, he picks up the handset, he hits *12 to turn off hot desking. Right? Next time he comes in the office is on Fridays. Right? Someone's already sitting at desk number 7. He says hi to Angela, and he sits over at desk number 7. Same thing. Right? Pick up the phone, *11, hot desk ID, and now calls are coming to him at desk number 7. Voicemail box, right? This wasn't created or enabled when the user was created. This is basically, this is actually default settings. Transcription is a plan-specific feature. So, and what it does is the system listens to the voicemail and tries to type it out and enter it into the email notification. It does the best that it can, right? If there's a lot of background noise or wind noise, people aren't speaking into their microphone properly, it may not be fully accurate in those instances. Voicemail to email, right? This just means we're going to send you an email when a voicemail comes through, and that here we're attaching a MP3 file, right? So you get an email notification, click on the MP3, and now you can listen to it. Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they become full and cannot accept any more. So if your staff is not good about maintaining their voicemail boxes, you can click here, right, to delete the messages after we send that notification. This means the only way your staff members can check their voicemail is via their email, right? So, right, where if I leave this unchecked, my staff members can call in over the phone, listen to it on their phone, and delete it that way. They can go through their user portal and see their voicemails there, listen to it there, delete them there as well. Faxbox, users can have their own Faxbox if you enable it. I recommend making use of a phone number, right? So either buy from new or use a spare. And that way this person can send faxes out as well as receive faxes. If you choose to only use an extension number, that means this person can only receive faxes. They'll not be able to send a fax out. because what the system will do is it'll try to use the extension number as the outbound caller ID of the fax, and that will fail. Conference bridge, you can enable conferencing for a user, and then you just need to create a PIN number for them, and then you click on save. Now, for the conference bridge, right, the user can adjust their PIN number via the user portal. Follow me. Oops, this is probably not the best user for that. So let's go up to Aaron because he has at least 2. Right, this allows you to determine the order that a user's devices ring. Right now, this does not include ring groups. Right, this is just calls that come directly to the user. When you first enable it, actually, let's go. It will look like this. Right, because it wants to know which devices do you want to use, right? And then when you, right, you would uncheck the boxes, and then it actually starts them off like this, saying, okay, so I know you want to use both devices. How long do you want them to ring for? You have timestamps up here, right? This one's still editable, so you can click distribute. That's the easiest thing to do, right? Just like ring groups, you can change the order around and adjust the ringing time as well. Music on hold, you can have your users have their own hold music. .mp3, .wave, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Customized call recording. When you first enable it, it looks like this, right? You have to tell the system what kind of calls you want to record. Inbound internal, right? Another dash user called, right? Coworker call. Inbound external, customer call. Right? Outbound internal means calling another coworker, and then outbound external means calling a customer back. Now, every account includes at least some storage with it. That's going to vary depending on your plan. And if you go over, we will continue to store it. Go over your storage amount. But then you'll have an overage charge listed on your invoice. For the specifics of that, you would want to talk to your account services team, so that way you know how much storage you have and what the overage would be. If you have heavy call volume and you intend to record every call, then I would recommend checking out AWS, Amazon Web Services. You can link your AWS account to your Dash account and have the storage happen at AWS versus with us. Last I saw, their pricing was cheaper, but again, you had to have the quantity to justify spending that. Voicemail boxes shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. Now, if you see a name in this column, that means that's a user voicemail box, right? Created at the same time as a user. So if you click here, you can delete a voicemail box. You do not want to delete the voicemail box of a user unless you're absolutely certain that they're never going to have voicemail. Because once you delete it, you can't add it back to the user in the same way. All right, this voicemail box is that intrinsically tied. Once you delete it, you can't recreate it other than recreating the user. Up here at the top, you can create new voicemail boxes. You would do this for like your ACD queues or for your ring groups instead of using one of your staff members' personal voicemail boxes. You need to give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. Right? Then you would click on Create Voicemail Box. Once it's created, you can click on the wrench icon. You can view the basic settings so you know how to record a greeting over the phone. But under Advanced, under Greeting Media, you can upload a file. You can select from your existing media files. Now, the media file, that's your normal default greeting. The temporary, this is the out of office or vacation message. So if you have 2 files selected, right, one in media and one in temporary, the temporary file plays. Right? until you set the temporary back to none, then the media file will play. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes already have one recipient built in. So for your voicemail boxes that you create manually, you'd want to click here where it says add new recipient. You just put an email address. If you only need one, you just click save changes. If you want to add multiple, you click add to add the next email address. So after you've added recipients and you have reading media, under options, you can click on the box in front of already set up. And then you have the options here for, are you going to delete after notification, as well as, now my mouse is messing up here, attach messages to the email. Advanced routing, this is where direct inward system access is, or DISA. Now, by default, DISA is not enabled on new accounts, just because it's a way for people to commit fraud on your account, and you may not be able to find out about it right away. Why you would want DISA is because you want to be able to use your cell phone to call out to your customers, but you don't want your customers to see your cell phone number, right? So what DISA does is when you enable it, it creates a PIN number. Now, this setup here is then you're saying you're going to have a menu option. I do not recommend that. Click Edit Settings, add an extension, and then add an extension number that's not part of your normal sequence. Right? Save changes. So now I can call into my main number that goes to the virtual receptionist. I can enter in this extension number, right, which is out of order from my staff members' extensions. Then the system's going to prompt me to enter this PIN number. Once I do, I'm going to hear dial tone. I then enter the area code and phone number I want to reach out to. I make that call, and my cell phone number doesn't show up as the outbound caller ID, right? My main number shows up as my outbound caller ID, right? Just as a reminder, right? This phone number, this 323 phone number, would show up as my caller ID instead of my cell phone number's 702 number, for example. Now, if you have it as a menu option, right, that means a bad actor, right, will eventually find it, right? Because people sometimes just randomly press numbers, and then they'll say, hey, enter a PIN number. So then it won't take them forever to figure out a 4-digit PIN number, or even, PIN numbers in general. And then they can make outbound calls on your account, and you may not know about it right away. Like most people wouldn't know about it until their next invoice. One way to find out about that, though, would be under the call logs, where you see here we've had an outbound call on my system, right? The yellow arrow to the left. But I see here that it's coming from a VoIP phone. So I know it's a legitimate call, right? I can click on this week. I can see that there were more calls, right? Again, Mike was using his VoIP phone here. These little green arrows to the right are calls coming into the system. So you see here, this call came in and was offered to this, looks like a soft phone, but no one answered. Now, you can always download these logs. It just downloads as a CSV file. You can do custom, so you can select your date range. The system will let you go back up to 1 year, right, 12 months. And then you can download the CSV files. So if you need to keep your call log information for compliance reasons, I recommend doing that at least once a month. Our engineers can go back up to 18 months total, right? So 6 more months. After that, we can't recover the data. So that's something you'd want to, if you need it, you'd want to make sure it's done regularly. Feature codes, I've mentioned a couple of these. These all allow your VoIP phone users to access different features of Dash directly from their phone. This information is a web page on our website under the support pages, right? Feature codes. There's also a one-page PDF on our support pages called the Phone Commands Cheat Sheet, which has the feature codes, but also a brief explanation on how to use them. All right, so that's the dashboard. So up here under the menu icon, next up we have Blacklists. This is an included feature, and this allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your account. Right, so we click on Edit Blacklists. You click Edit Add to create a new list. Right, so you give it a name, and then are you going to block anonymous calls? Right, that means if we don't get valid inbound caller ID, we're going to block the call. Right, if you turn it on. Right, if you leave it off, those calls will go through. Beyond that, you click Add Number. You put +1 area code and phone number. No dashes, no parentheses, no spaces, just +1 the number. And you keep clicking Add for all the numbers you want to add. When you're done, you click on Save. Then you would go back to Settings, and you want to make sure your list is over here under the right, under Selected. Right? So any phone number on this list are blocked. Right? They're going to get a busy tone when they try to dial any of my phone numbers. And then you just make sure you click Update. Call recording. This will take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. It uses your dash login. This is where you would view your call recordings. You could download them, play them back, delete them. If you're using AWS, this will actually open up and take you to the AWS interface, so you could look at your call recordings there. Monitor is a plan-specific feature, right? It lets you see the status of your staff members. Doesn't matter what phone they're using. In fact, you can specify by which device. Right? You can see everyone. You can see who's busy, who's away. Over here, you've got active inbound calls, so you would see the inbound calls that are being spoken to and who they're speaking to. And then the parked calls. If there's parked calls here, it will show the parking spot number. Reports. This is advanced reporting. This allows you to create your own reports, so you can, have a better idea of the call activity on your account. We do have a video on our YouTube channel under videos. You want to look up advanced reporting demo, and it will show you some of the things you can do. This is a plan-specific feature. So if you don't think the call logs will do enough for you, check out that video. And then if you don't have the reports already enabled, you would need to talk to our account services team to see if you need to change plans to do so. Voicemails. This is the voicemail manager. You can get to any voicemail box on the account. So we go here, and then you can see their voicemails. So like if you have gotten reports that a voicemail box is full, as an admin, you can go to it. Right, you can see the date, the time, the target phone number, the duration. You can play it back. You can download it. If you click on the little box here, you can move it to a different voicemail box, or you can mark it for new listened for deletion, or just straight up delete it. Integration AWS. Again, this is only enabled on some accounts, but this is to link your Dash account with AWS. Over here at the top right, ACD queues. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. This is a call center feature. They're an upgrade to existing plans. So it's possible you might have to change plans, right, which could change your costs. And then as an additional upgrade, you can add queues. What we're seeing here are our standard ACD queues. We also have ACD queues Pro. Accounts can only have one or the other. They cannot have both, so I can only show you one. However, on our YouTube channel, we have an ACD Queues Pro demo video as well, so you can check that out to see if that's more of the queue features you need than the standard queues. All right, so over here is where you would add a new queue, and I'll just click on an existing queue. First up, you have to give it a name. And then you decide, does it have a phone number or an extension number, right? One or the other, doesn't get both. That doesn't mean it can't be a menu option, right? Doesn't mean your staff members can't transfer calls to it. Then you have the queue routing strategy. Unfortunately, this pull down doesn't work, but you have, for standard queues, you have ring all, right? Ring everybody. Round robin will equalize out over time. Most idle means whoever's been waiting the longest gets the next call. Then you have least calls, which is whoever has the least amount of connected calls gets the next call that comes in the system. And then least offered, which is the combination of missed and connected calls, right? So total offered calls. So whoever's the least amount gets the next one. Pro queues have those same options, but does not have a ring all. Then we have hold treatment, which is cut off, but you can have your own file, right? .wave, .mp3, .ogg. The pro queues allows you more granularity within your hold treatment. You can have multiple different media files play. You can announce the position in line or announce their expected wait time. The queue timeout, this is how much time people can wait on hold, measured in seconds. So in this case, 1 hour. The queue call limit, this is how many people can wait on hold. Right now I'm saying 4 people can wait on hold. This is on top of people already speaking to my staff members. If I set this to 0, that means there's no limit. Timeout immediately if empty. This means if I have no staff members logged in and a call comes into the queue, the system will treat them, that caller, as if they've already hit that 3,600 seconds. And the escalation call flow after timeout, after they hit that 3,600 seconds, where do you want to send the calls, right? Send it to a user, send it to another queue, send it to a ring group, etc., or back to your main menu. And then you have the zero out call flow. If you have this something selected here, that means you're allowing that inbound caller to press 0 while they're waiting on hold. And when they do that, where are you sending them? Another queue, another user, ring group, etc. Agent behavior, agent recovery time. How much time after they are done with a queue call before the system offers them a second call from the queue, right? In this case, 15 seconds. Usually we see 0 to 30 seconds in most cases. Force away on reject or miss. This means if you enable this, if a user misses a call, right? They don't answer an offered call, the system will put them in away mode until that user marks themselves as ready once again. Agent connect timeout, 20 seconds is typically plenty because they can only answer calls on their VoIP devices. And then you would click on create queue, or in this case, save changes. Once you've created a queue, over here on the left, you would click on members. This list of people are the people who can be in my queues. Right? Doesn't mean they're assigned to a queue specifically yet. It just means they're available to be in a queue. Up here, I click on manage members. Right? The list on my left, these people are not yet in queues. Right? People on the right, they are available in my queues. I can click here on Josh and I can move them into a queue, into be in the queues. Right? Likewise, I can go down here and we can get rid of these 2 people and move them off of. So now they're no longer part of my queue list. Right? We go back to queues. And if you click on a queue, right, you can see their status. I have this option here for agents. So I can click and drag more people to be in my queues or my specific queue. Right? Save changes. Notice that went up to 2 of 8. Once you have assigned agents to a queue, then you can click on managers. Any of your agents can then become a manager by clicking and dragging them over, if you are so inclined. Now, once you've assigned your staff members to be in a queue, up here at the top, they'll have the option to come to ACD queues, right? So they'll have user portal and ACD queues. When they first come in here, right? So here, let me end my session real quick. Right, so first I would start by beginning my session. Now the system starts me off in away mode. Little phone icon here, I want to click on that and I want to make sure I select my VoIP device. Once I've done that, click on the icon again. Now I go back to status and now I mark myself as ready. So now I'm ready to receive calls that come in on this queue. right? So green means I'm ready, waiting for a call. Light blue means a call is being offered to me, right? Connecting. Dark blue means I'm on a connected call, right? So I'm speaking to a customer. Red, as you saw, is for when I'm away. Yellow is I'm on an external call, meaning someone called my extension directly, right? So call outside of the queue, or I called a customer back. And then gold is I'm on wrap-up time. The Pro queues also have a performance icon over here, so admins or managers can compare agents to each other. The other advantage that the Pro queue has is that managers can eavesdrop on a call, right? They can whisper to an agent on a call, and they can also just barge in on a call. All right, dynamic caller ID. This is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change your outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users. All right, so go down here at the first one, and I'm just basing it off of the area code, right? So when my VoIP phone users dial the 408 area code, their outbound caller ID is going to change to this phone number, right? The pull down here is for any phone number on your account. And then this is just the name. So anytime they dial 408, their phone number will change to this 4018 number, right? So it looks like a local call. An alternative is up here where it's a feature code, right? So they dial, my users have to dial *550, then enter area code and phone number of the person they're reaching. When they do so, the system will automatically change their phone number to this 323 phone number. So again, it looks like a local number, local call to whoever they're calling instead of the main company number. Faxes, this takes you to the fax manager. This is an included feature. You can see your inbound faxes. Let's see if we have any. The system only keeps this information for about 30 days, give or take. Oh, so here we go. You got the date, the time, the phone number I was reaching out to, the number of pages. You can download the file. Now, outbound faxes, and you can select the fax box. You see a failed attempt here, the date, the time, the phone number. You can download the file. You can click on the details here, this last icon, and there might be more information, right? So no endpoints, meaning that we didn't get a proper connection on the other side. Let's see. And then email to fax logs, you see these thumbs down, so they didn't get processed. Little eyeball icon here, and you see the error was no valid attachments, right? Meaning this person did not use a PDF or TIFF file. Sometimes the system will actually tell you the kind of file they use, so then you know for certain, but that's when you would go back and say, hey, make sure you're using PDF or TIFF. Now, the email to fax logs, this is the system having a problem processing their request, right? So invalid attachment, or like someone used their personal email address instead of the work email address, or just had a problem converting the PDF file, right? The outbound fax log, if there's errors here, this means we had a problem reaching out to the other device. So we grabbed your file, right? There's no problem with the request. We converted the file. Then we try to communicate with the other fax machine, and that's when the error occurred. Usually that means you just want to try again, because oftentimes it's something like user busy, right? The number was, or busy signal. Number manager, this just takes you back to your spare numbers page. Webhooks, this is a plan-specific feature. You'd actually want to talk to our sales team about this. This allows you to link a dash to other software, right? So like Zapier, for example. So you would add a new hook. This is, you're getting into programming here. This is typically fairly advanced for most of our customers. But you create a hook, and then you need other software for the hook to link up to, right? And that's when we're sending data to this other software. On our YouTube channel, we have an introduction to Zapier, which covers part of webhooks, so I would encourage you to take a look at that. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see samples of what we have done in terms of linking Dash to other software. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has their own individual user portal. As an admin, you cannot get to their specific user portal. But your staff members, they start off on their voicemail tab. Now, if on their voicemail box you have delete after notification enabled, there'll be nothing here. Right? This only shows up because I do not have that enabled. But again, I can see the date, the time. I can listen to it. I can download it. I put a check mark here, and I can mark it for deletion. Call history tab, I can see the history of calls to and from my user. Faxes, this only really comes up if you have your own fax box. The contact list tab shows everything on the Dash account, right? So other users, groups, the call queues, attendants. Now, as a user, I cannot adjust this, right? This is just for viewing, so and reference. So I can find someone to transfer a call to, for example. Conference tab, these are your conference settings. Over here on the right, and it's kind of squished, but this is where your staff members would moderate it or adjust their PIN numbers, right? Their moderator PIN number and their participant PIN number. They also have the option for people to start muted or deafened, as well as play entry and exit tones, right? Then you would click save. When you're actually in a conference, right? As a moderator, you'd want to be on this page. This plus sign, you invite other Dash users to your conference. Lock means no one else can join. Mute, you can mute everybody, and you unmute everybody, and then you can end the conference call. Also, while you're in a conference, under the participants, each person will have their own little box. You can actually mute a specific person as well as kick out a specific person. The settings and devices tabs, this is where your users would set up their own call forwarding, right? They just click enable call forwarding, put +1 number, and then click on save, and they see the status of their devices. And that is everything. And I haven't seen any questions pop up in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream today, just a little bit over 5 minutes over. I thank you for your time today. We will be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.